Can the Miami Heat get the right players to make a big push next year? It's possible. At the time of this video being made, Game 1 of the NBA Finals is going to tip off soon. It'll feature the Boston Celtics, their first final since the Boston team with Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce were together, and the Golden State Warriors, who are in their 6th finals in 8 years. Both teams have a lot at stake, but we're not talking about them. We're talking about the team that came up just short of going to the finals, the Miami Heat, and how they need to improve to try and get back to the finals. State of the Heat. There were a lot of big surprises in the Eastern Conference of the NBA this year, not the least of which was that teams that weren't competitive last time around were all of a sudden shooting for the top spot. See the Bulls before injuries crippled them. And then, with the Celtics, they were below 500 when the season was halfway done. Then, they got their act together, and now they're in the finals. And of course, there was the Miami Heat, who worked hard to get where they wanted to be, the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They made it to the NBA Finals in the bubble playoffs, and with their positioning, they were poised to do it again. And it almost happened, getting to Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics. But they came up short. Not for lack of trying at times. Jimmy Butler played out of his mind in the final 2 games, but as many will tell you, one man does not make a team. So thus, with them now at home watching the finals, the team needs to grow in order to try and get back to the conference finals. And then the NBA Finals. So the question is, what options do they have? BRYN Forbes. The Miami Heat are paying Duncan Robinson $90 million. Yet Coach Spo doesn't seem too pleased with his performances. He barely saw the floor in the playoffs, and that took a big toll on their spacing. BRYN Forbes is one of the best shooters in the league, at least efficiency-wise. He's not a defensive liability, and he won't demand starter minutes or a big salary. There's little to lose by signing him, and in this league, having another shooter is never a bad thing, as long as they make more than they miss. Otto Porter Jr. Miami just shot 42% from the field and 30% from three-point range in the Eastern Conference Finals. Victor Oladipo, 31%, Gabe Vincent, 39%, Max Strus, 30%, Kyle Lowry, 29%, and Tyler Herro, 37%, were all horrible in that regard. We know Boston's defense is the best in the NBA, but something has to give if Miami's going to return to title contention in 2022-23. That should include the team using its projected $10.26 million non-taxpayer mid-level exemption on a wing shooter. The good news, there's a ton of players who could make sense at that price point. In particular, we're looking at Otto Porter Jr. of the Golden State Warriors. The forward shot 37% from three-point range during the regular season. He's playing under a minimum contract and will likely leave the Western Conference champs in free agency. Having someone with his ability to spot up on the perimeter would have changed the dynamics in this season's playoffs. Even if they can't get him, they need to be looking for someone like him. A great shooter just trying to make a little more money that can be a game changer without breaking the bank. Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony's time to win an NBA championship is running short, and playing in the Western Conference could only complicate things. The Los Angeles Lakers don't have the money to build a contending squad, even with LeBron. So Anthony could try and take his talents back to the East to have a somewhat easier path to the finals. He could provide a huge offensive spark off the bench alongside Tyler Herro and help their spacing issues. Now, at one time, Anthony on the bench was a joke at best, but his time in Portland showed him the light, and he did his best with the Lakers. On the Heat squad, he could be a veteran presence that could shake things up and make the team better. The draft. Miami has its first-round pick each year from 2022 to 2028, with an exception of 2025. This gives Riley and company an opportunity to use said selections to find immediate impact performers. While we'll focus on a potential blockbuster later in this article, using its first-round pick, 27th overall, on a veteran point guard could make sense. Lowry is a shell of his former self. While he has 2 more years remaining on his contract, the Heat need to find a capable backup. Gabe Vincent, Victor Oladipo, and Max Strus just aren't that. Perhaps Miami could offer up its first-round pick to the Indiana Pacers for veteran TJ McConnell and a second-round selection. McConnell has experience playing in this role and would bring some stability to the second unit. This team would need to improve off Vincent's contract and another piece in order to make the salaries work. Corey Joseph, Detroit Pistons, and Kemba Walker, New York Knicks, are two other options. Juan Toscano-Anderson. Juan Toscano-Anderson was a huge part of the Golden State Warriors rotation, but he's not even playing anymore. He lost ground to Gary Payton II and has racked up DNP CDs at an alarming rate. He's a perfect fit for Heat culture. He'll put his body on the line on every single possession, play physical defense, and knock down a couple of threes when open. JTA is a fierce competitor and a bruiser, and is tailor-made for Spoelstra's system. As we've seen throughout NBA history, sometimes you just need the right guy who is the right fit. Maybe Juan is that for them. He wouldn't cost much, but could be worth his weight in gold. The mega trade option. Like we said during the draft section, Miami can use multiple first-round picks to package in a trade for another star player to team up with Butler. Throughout his tenure in South Beach, Riley has not been afraid to do just that. While the move for Lowry last summer didn't pan out, we're not expecting Riley to be gun-shy this summer. If anything, he's going to be more determined to make things work at all costs. Miami remains a destination organization. Star players would love to find their way to South Beach. With the assets to make this work, expect a lot of Heat trade rumors in this regard. We're looking especially at Miami targeting a front court presence to team up with Bam Adebayo. That's where someone like Jeremy Grant of the Detroit Pistons makes sense. The Heat offer up a future first-round pick while moving off Duncan Robinson's bloated contract to make this work. A starting core of Lowry, Butler, PJ Tucker, Grant, and Bam would be vastly improved from the unit we saw during the 2021-22 season. There are also all sorts of rumors about Zion Williamson. He's not re-signed with the Pelicans just yet, so you never know. There's also rumors about Anthony Davis and his future with the Lakers. While both of these players have big risks, if they keep them healthy up until the playoffs, the upside could be huge. And Riley has never been afraid to play big man, as you all likely know. Beat the East. Some of you out there might think that these suggestions are too aggressive. But here's the facts of the matter. The Eastern Conference in the course of a few seasons went from the dregs of the league to being the one to look out for in many respects. Even with all the injuries hurting teams like the Nets and the Bulls, the East still came out looking strong via the Bucks, the Celtics, and yes, the Heat. And next year, injuries will be healed. The COVID protocols will likely be less enforced than they were this year. And no matter who wins the finals, there will be more drive to be the one to represent the East when the time comes. Miami was in the finals 2 years ago, but couldn't get there since despite getting close. They don't want to be runners-up again. So, if they need to make a big swing to see if it'll connect, yeah, they'll do that. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at the Miami Heat and how they can potentially get some big trades or free agents in order to get the edge they need to get back to the NBA Finals? Do you think that any of these moves are plausible? Or do you think that they are going to be in a rut with other teams rising higher than them? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time on the channel.